Alright, so here we go. I'm going to work through this key on putting it all together, and I'll try to go somewhat quickly so that the recording isn't too long for you. First one I'm going to look at is just transforming these 2 points here, taking them through the transformations. So 2, 4 right here, vertical, so it's reflected about the x-axis. That's the first thing. Vertical reflection about the x-axis. So if we think of the x-axis, anytime we go ahead and reflect across the x-axis, we're going to change the sign on the y-coordinate. So 2, 4 moves to 2, negative 4. And then down 2 units, so 2, negative 4. It's going to move down 2 units, so that's 2, negative 6. And then 3 to the left, subtract 3 from the x, so negative 1, negative 6. Negative 1, negative 6. 10, 100. 10, 100. Okay, first it's reflected over the x-axis, so the y changes sign. Okay, then it is vertical down 2 units, so subtract 2 from the y, so 10, negative 102. And then 3 left would be subtract 3 from the x, so 7, negative 102. 7, negative 102. The parent function over here, that's x squared, so I have f of x equals x squared. If I modify x squared and follow the 3 transformations, you got the yellow, the blue, and then the purple. If I do all of those things to x squared, well, I start with x squared, then that turns into reflecting over the x-axis, so that's negative 1 times x squared. And then down 2, I'm going to subtract 2. Negative 1 x squared minus 2. And then left 3 would have me taking the x found in here and replacing it with x plus 3. So my final equation is negative 1 times x plus 3 squared minus 2. So there we go. That's g of x, and you've got f of x. Next problem. The parent function, as I look at the graph over here to the left, the slope of this line is 1, rise over 1, up 1 over 1. So I'm looking at absolute value of x. If I look at g of x and examine the transformations done to produce g of x, we'll make some more room here. So absolute value of x and negative absolute value of x minus 2 plus 4. X minus 2 plus 4. So I'm trying to move from absolute value of x over to here. So, one thing I can do is I'll multiply my entire function. Let's call this f of x by negative 1. Okay. So go back and compare. It's still not there yet, and that was a reflection about the x-axis. So then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move it up 4. So that just says take what I have in blue, add 4 to each side. So negative 1 times f of x plus 4 equals negative 1 absolute value of x plus 4. So I'm sitting here with green. Compare green to yellow. I'm still not there. Just notice I'm 1 step away. X needs to become x minus 2. So that would be a shift left, right. Shift right 2 units which is replace x with x minus 2. So I'm at this line right here. I'm going to recopy it, but every instance of x will get replaced with x minus 2. Negative 1 f x minus 2 plus 4 equals negative 1 absolute value of x minus 2 plus 4. So if I compare that back to the kind of the target, the goal, I have it. So in the fact that now that I've built it, I have all the transformations that took place. They're right here and in that order. So I can go back up and fill that in. There we go. So first reflect across the x-axis, then go up 4, then go right 2 units. So if I come back to my original graph, I can certainly move that now. And so I've got to apply 1, 2, 3 in that order to my graph. So the graph will get kind of messy, and then I'll clean it up. So first thing, reflect across the x-axis. That's looking something like this. Then move it up 4. Then it's looking something like this. And then go right 2. Then it's looking something like this. So that one in red is what we're going for. That's the final one. Okay, last thing we got to do is just move some points. So I'm just going to start with 0, 0. If I reflect 0, 0 across the x-axis, it's in the same spot. Move 0, 0 up 4, then it's at 0, 4. And move it right 2, and it's at 2, 4. 2, 4. 1, 1. Okay, 1, 1 reflected across the x-axis becomes, let's see, 1, negative 1. We'll try to keep track of this. Let's find a little scratch work. Alright, we can do it down here. So 1, 1 first became 1, negative 1 after it was reflected across the x-axis. Then up 4 it was 1, add 4 to the y, so 3. Then it became right 2, so plus 2 on the x. So 3, 3. So 1, 1 moved to 3, 3. And a good check is, see if 3, 3 is on your new graph. So I go over to the graph in red. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 3, 3 is right here. 3, 3. So if the points, if 1, 1 started on my graph, then wherever it's transformed to should, that point should be on the final graph. Okay, so we got, that was 3, 3. 10, 10, do scratch work. 10, 10 across the x-axis is 10, negative 10, up 4 is 10, negative 6, and then right 2 would put me at 12, negative 6. So go to your graph, is it reasonable if you go over 12 and down 6? Yeah, that looks like that should be on the graph. Okay, next. Parent graph is the square root of x. Reflected about the y-axis. So if I go square root of x and then I reflect it across the y-axis, that says replace x with negative x. So it would be f of negative x equals square root negative x. And then I go down 1. So that says subtract 1. So I'll do it from both sides. And then left 2 would have me, examine where I'm at and replace every instance of x with x plus 2. So just look at, parentheses are going to play a role here. Look at x. There's a negative that comes before it. So whatever I substitute in for x, I'm going to put in parentheses because something is currently happening to x. before I substitute in the x plus 2. So f negative so I'll put my x plus 2 in there, minus 1. And I just need to go to the right side now. Square root negative parentheses. I'm going to substitute in for x plus 2, and I still have the minus 1. So g of x is the square root of negative x plus 2 minus 1. Alright, so now I've just got to move some points. Okay, so I start with 4, 2, and I'm going to make myself some more room here. I'll erase this. You can back up the video if you want to see it again. So 4, 2, reflect over the y-axis, so change the sign on x. Down 1, subtract 4 from the subtract 1 from the y. And then left 2 would be subtract 2 from the x. Negative 6, 1. Okay, 9, 3. Check 9, 3, right? If you plug the x into f of x right here, would you get 3? Yes, the square root of 9 is 3. So 9, 3. 9, 3, reflect over the y-axis, is negative 9, 3. Down 1 is negative 9, 2. Left 2, subtract 2 from the x, so negative 11, 2. Okay, then you got your 100, 10. Reflect across the y-axis, negative 100, 10. Down 1, subtract 1 from the y, so negative 100, 9. And then we go left 2, so subtract 2 from the x, negative 102, 9. So if you plugged negative 102 in for x right here in blue, you should get 9 out of that. So negative 102 plus 2 is negative 100. Then you'll apply the negative sitting here, so that would give you positive 100. Square root of 100 is 10. 10 minus 1 is 9. And that's the principal square root, so we only care about the positive. Okay, so negative 102, 9. Okay, next problem, we're on to the back side now. Your parent function is just f of x equals x. If you notice what happened, if you look at these x's here and these x's here, they simply changed sign. So that's a reflection across the y-axis. And if you look at the y's and look for a pattern, it looks like you subtracted 4 from the y's. So that would be shift down 4. So we'll go back to the rule real quick to g of x right here. If you're going to reflect across the y-axis, you're going to multiply your function by negative 1. So if you start with x, the next step is going to be negative 1 times x. And the next step says down 4. So you'll have negative 1 x minus 4. Or just negative x minus 4. So then we trace some points. Okay, 0, 0. We can do some scratch work here. 0, 0 reflected across the y-axis is still at 0, 0. Down 4, it goes 0, negative 4. 3, 3. 3, 3 reflected across the y-axis gives me negative 3, 3. And then down 4 gives me negative 3, negative 1. And then 10, 10. 10, 10 across the y-axis gives me negative 10, 10. And then the last one down 4 would give me negative 10, 6. Okay, so now we just got to shift the graph. So reflect across the y-axis and down 4. So pick a couple points. So this one I'll reflect across the y-axis. Goes here. This one go across the y-axis. Moves here. So I got my line. Okay, that's step 1. And then you just go down 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're off the graph. We could pick another one right here. So the blue one is where we end up. So that's your new graph. Okay, a few more to go. Parent graph is 1 over x. Reflected over the x-axis and down 2. So 1 over x, if you reflect it over the x-axis, you're going to multiply the function by -1. Then down 2 is you'll take what you have and subtract 2. So -1 times 1 over x minus 2. This is an interesting one because whether you reflect it over the x or the y-axis, in this case, as your first step, it didn't matter. But that's okay. So we have -1 times 1 over x minus 2, or -1 over x minus 2. So you've got your function. You got to go through and work with some points. So we'll zip through those points real quick. So remember, anytime we're going to reflect about the x-axis, you are going to change the sign on the y. So for each point, we need to change the sign on y and then subtract 2 from y. Change sign on y minus 2 from y. So the x's are all going to stay the same. So I can fill that in. -4, -1, 1, 5, 10. So just a quick deal. Change the sign on y and subtract 2 from y. So I'm looking at all these y's. It's just which each of them change their sign and subtract 2. So -1/4 becomes 1/4. 1/4 take away 2. Well, 2, this might help you. 2 is 8/4. Right? So another way of writing 2 is 8/4. So 1/4 minus 8/4 is -7/4. Next one, -1 becomes 1. 1 minus 2 is -1. Next one, 1 becomes -1. -1 minus 2 is -3. 1/5 becomes -1/5. -1/5 take away 2. Well, 2 is 10/5. So -1/5 take away 10/5 is -11/5. Next one is 1/10. 2 is 20/10. So 1/10 becomes -1/10. -1/10 minus 20/10 is -21/10. Okay, then we just gotta change the graph real quick. Easy way to do this one, like think about these axes right here. This is a vertical asymptote, this is a horizontal. But think about moving those things. So reflect it across the y-axis. Well, we can't really reflect those. So I'll sketch this. Reflect it over the x-axis. So that gives me this shape. And then down 2. Well, imagine taking all that stuff and just sliding it down 2. Okay, so the picture you come up with is going to be this one. So think about moving those red lines down 2. So you got this one. Should probably go another color. This one. Here. And we have this one here. Okay. A couple more. you're looking at f of x equals x squared. This one's a little different because you're looking just a little different notation. So f of x is x squared. I got to examine negative f of x plus 2 minus 3. Negative f of x plus 2 minus 3. If I compare that to f of x, some things have happened. First off, f of x was made negative. And you need to recognize that f of x was made negative before the minus 3 happened, because this minus 3, you know, that minus here and the minus 3, they're not hooked up, right? The minus isn't applied. The minus right here isn't going to get distributed to the minus 3. So that negative in front of f happened first. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go negative f of x, and I'll document that was reflection over the x-axis. And then I'll replace x with x plus 2, so I'll go right, left 2. And then I'll go down 3. So negative f x plus 2, negative f x plus 2 minus 3. So I've got a list here, and you know, just apply them in this order. Those are the transformations that happened. Reflect over the x, left 2, down 3. Reflect over the x, left 2, down 3. Okay, so you just got to apply those transformations to the point and to the graph. I'm just going to do the graph for you and leave you with that. So reflect it over the x, leave something like this. Oops, I should try to maintain that shape a little more. Reflect it over the x, looks something like this. Then left 2 would look something like, I'm just moving points like this. And then down 3. Moving this one down 3 right here. You'd have something like this. So that graph in red, that's what we're looking for. Alright, so I'm going to let you finish up these last two and ask about them, you know, in class if you want to, but there's your video key for the putting it all together.